I have an abnormal noise coming from the front of the engine here in this E500. It's very slight, you can hardly notice it. It's kind of a little bit of a rumbling noise. And I want to figure out what's going on. That noise usually means there's a bearing that's going in one of the front engine accessories or pulleys. And it could be the idler pulley, it could be the belt tensioner pulley bearing, it could be the alternator, it could be the water pump. So when you have these type of noises, the only way to figure out which bearing is making the noise is to remove the serpentine belt and kind of, spin and listen to each one of the bearings in the front of the engine. So before we pull this into the shop, I'm going to start it up and let you hear the noise so you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to fire the engine up and then walk around and try to get the microphone as close as I can to the front of the engine so that you can hear this noise. Can you hear that rumbling, kind of oscillating sound? That's typical of a bearing noise. So I'm gonna pull this in the shop right now, and we'll pull the serpentine belt, and you're gonna see how we inspect each one of the bearings. If I'm removing the belt, you want to inspect it right away, and the best way to do that is to bend it like this and look for cracking in the belt. This belt looks really good shape. It's obvious this has been recently changed. You can still see the Mercedes-Benz on the belt that hasn't been worn off. So I don't have to worry about the belt. To get the belt off, you have to loosen up the tensioner, and on these engines, you just use a big 17mm socket. There's a nut casting just below the tensioner and inboard of the tensioner pulley, and you turn the ratchet counterclockwise, and that releases the tension. Then you just take the belt off. But be warned, take a few pictures with your camera of the belt routing before you take it off, or you may have a problem getting it back on. Okay, now let's check. I'm going to come down here to the alternator and spin that. That feels great. I'm going to spin the water pump. That feels good. I'm going to reach down in here and spin the AC pump, spin the tensioner. The tensioner, usually it's the tensioner pulley and the idler pulley that go on these, and then we're going to do the idler pulley. Listen to that. Okay, that's the culprit right there. And this is probably the number one bearing that needs to be replaced, primarily because it spins at a higher speed than some of the other bearings. So this is going to solve this problem on this engine. I highly recommend, if you don't have maintenance records on the car that you own or considering buying, then if it's over 100,000 miles, I recommend you replace the idler pulley and the tensioner pulley, just as a preventative measure. If these things seize up on the road, you can throw a belt and have all kinds of problems.